Evening, everyone. Our June 6:30 agenda meeting. Roll call, please.
Dr. Lopez?
Here.
Mr. Andrews? Mr. Corbin?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Socio? Ms. Guadagnino? Mayor Womack?
Here. Sunshine notice, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by publication in the Home News on January 2nd, 2019, indicating that the North Windsor Township Council held regular meetings on the first and third Monday of each month at 7 p.m. at 710 Herman Road, North Brunswick, and agenda meetings on the second and fourth Monday of the month at the same place at 7 p.m. In the event of a regular meeting falls on a legal holiday, the meeting shall be held on Tuesday night after said holiday at the same place and hour.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, Ms. Gallimore. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Your
How
nails
are you?
are clear. I like it.
Thank you. I have 5 items on the agenda today. Number 1 is the bill list. Any questions on the bill list? Number 2 is a Chapter 159 Division of Highway Traffic Safety Grant for $5,500. Number 3 and 4 are budget transfers for fiscal year 2009 appropriation. One is for the current fund, one is for the water sewer fund, retransferring.
For 2019.
For 2019. Any questions on the budget transfers? All right, number 5 is deferring additional school tax liability for $850,000. This is something the township does yearly. Any questions?
That has to do with our calendar, our budgetary.
It's our state fiscal year versus a
Right.
calendar year.
Any
Questions?
The only thing that I'll note on the bills list is that Council President Guadagnino had a couple of questions. They were minor questions on it, so I'll talk with you about them because I don't think she had a problem. I don't want to speak for her, but I think she just had a couple of questions to clarify 2 items on the bills list. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Chaser.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and the council. Your Word. 2 items this evening. First one is amending contract with Montana Construction Corporation for the Howland Pump Station Improvement Project. As a closeout change order for $28,622.85.
That's a reduction of 28,
Yes.
622.
Yeah.
I like it better.
They saved us money.
But you add another 0 to that?
Here, hand him the pen. Oh, he's already doing it. Second item is authorizing award contract to Auto Environmental Systems for 95-gallon rollout containers up to 3,000 of them. Any questions?
These are the ones that are going to have Councilman Davis's face on them? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
We'll see him on the street as he's driving in. Thank you.
No, they're just regular blue containers like we've got now, right?
Yes.
These the little better gauge ones?
Yes.
Not those cheap ones you got last time?
I can't know anything about a little bit, I'm sorry.
Cheap.
But we received 3 bids on the contract. We got a sample cart from each of those vendors, and we durability tested all.
I mean, look, I understand a little bit, but,
Mhm.
I mean, we also write out a spec of what we want. I mean,
Right.
don't let us sell, you know.
I agree. And Otto has strengthened their container, I gotta say.
All right, good, because,
Yep.
again, the last one's what we're kind of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Mon, Director Ritz.
Just one item this evening, a resolution authorizing fireworks for the Youth Sports Festival.
Found a way to keep it short, too.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Look at that.
Ms. Monzo.
I have a few items here.
Oh, sure.
First one is a resolution. I was trying to, authorizing the sale of 77 solar renewable energy certificates. This we do annually. It's from our solar panels that we have out of the water plant. So we get a decent amount, but it goes to the online auction each year. So that's what we're doing. We think we're going to have 77. We're anticipating 8 additional certificates in May to add to the 69 that we've already recorded. So we hope to have that sale and be back to you in the meeting in June to award. Okay. The next one is a resolution that is a Chapter 48 resolution required by state health benefits if you're going to have participants in the state health benefit program for retirees. So we just recently settled a contract that included retirement benefits. We currently have it with 3 others, police, benevolent, the SOA, and also in the expired AFSCME contract, but it's in there. So all of this basically lays out what it is the retiree is supposed to pay for, what it is the municipality pays for, and in each case, we've just done it based on whatever contract we have in place with them. And as we continue to finish settling contracts, we may be bringing you an amendment to this again to add in, if we're adding in those benefits. And we also are looking at the personnel ordinance, which also may have a provision in there for retiree benefits. So we just have to do this, a technicality from the state that they want to know, how are we, that we're authorizing this.
Does this have anything to do, Kathy, with deferred compensation or not? Is that
No.
something?
That's completely separate, yep. The third item is a resolution awarding the bid for the purchase and installation of our water meters. This is our water meter project. As you know, it went to our water and sewer ad hoc committee. And it's also, we've made application with the New Jersey I-Bank for funding. The I-Bank approved the project for funding, and so now we're able to bring to you the lowest bid under the bid specs that were the bid proposals that we got back, and this is awarding that to Inline Services, and the total amount is $5,644,004.50.
50 cents.
I don't know where the 50 cents came in, but
Can't get it
It's there.
close to 50 cents.
the fourth item is authorizing a professional services agreement with Greg Smith to serve as an additional public defender for us, for our municipal court. We currently have an agreement for the duties of public defender, and this is an addition in case that there's others that want a substitute or somebody else to be their public defender. So
Is this a conflict with public defender?
it's not a
Some, yeah,
conflict.
to some degree.
Sort of. Yeah. Sort of.
We
Yeah, I
only
know.
pay
It can be, yes, yes.
We
And
only
in
pay per
this
session,
instance,
so it's
yes.
not like we're paying both.
We're not
That's
paying
correct.
that.
Per
We're not paying
session.
Only
that.
one meeting, right, as
Right.
used. Okay. The fifth item, this is a very long title resolution, but it basically is authorizing the financing through the I-Bank that we made application with for interim financing. So the I-Bank now allows you to get financing for some of your bigger projects up front for some of those initial upfront costs. And so this is just a resolution that authorizes us to do that should we need it for our water meter project. The next item is an ordinance. It's regarding police off-duty. So we currently have an ordinance in place for police off-duty, and it lays out the process for that. And this is really just kind of updating that and cleaning it up. And also, we got a request from the PBA, who schedules and does all of the contracts for off-duty with outside vendors. We got a request from them to take a look at some of the rates for off-duty. So we made a slight adjustment into how the rates are approved. And they really are a range of rates because the PBA are the ones that negotiate that rate with each contract for vendors. But it basically lays out for certain types of projects what the rates are. So some of the highway projects that might be a little more, when they have to, when you have Verizon or Public Service out there, those rates may be a little different than the road project rates that the township does on an internal road or one of the others. It also includes them to be able to negotiate a rate for special events as well, which, again, as we just redid our special events ordinance, this allows them to negotiate a rate for certain special events that may require some specific skills or a way to do public safety and police services.
Let me ask you this real quick on that. How do the rates that the PBA wants compare to what the state police get on state roads?
So we didn't do a comparison of that, but I can find out what the rates are for state police. I'm not sure.
If the state police get more than they're asking, you don't have to tell me.
I believe that the state police get more than they're asking.
I would
But we'll
think so.
confirm that.
Yeah, I would think so.
Do we have to approve those rates? I thought that's the PVA.
So
What's that have to do with
the
us?
old ordinance had something in there that said that every contract that the PBA is responsible for negotiating with vendors for that contract. And the old ordinance stated that every contract was to come before the council, mayor and council for approval. In practice, and I don't know when that started, and I don't know when the practice started, but in practice, they negotiate a contract, and it's administratively approved within the police department. We wanted to keep something similar to the practice, but we felt that it was, onerous to try to bring every vendor contract before the council. So that's one of the changes from the old to the new cleaned up ordinance. And it allows for the mayor and the administrator to approve on an annual basis the rates to be negotiated, and then the police director and/or the deputy chief of police will administratively approve each vendor agreement. Does that make sense?
Why would the council give up the responsibility of doing it?
Well, you can, I just thought it was onerous. They have hundreds and hundreds of contracts that they negotiate, and sometimes it's, I don't want to say on the fly, but on the fly, they might do it within a week or two of when they're needed, and we may not always have a council meeting. So I'm not quite sure how the practice got to be the way that it is, but
I don't, you guys ever remember approving one of those contracts before?
Never did.
Never
no,
once.
I don't think it's,
No, I don't.
So why did we never get them before, if that was the case?
I don't
And
know.
also, I believe the PBA, I mean, I just remember one time, we had an incident when we were doing youth basketball, we used to do the tournaments. And so they required us after that to have police. So we went to the PBA as opposed to having the township provide police officers, because it's a less expense. So we did a contract, they sent an officer over, and that was how it was done, and would have been much less as a cost to the town. But here, as a council person, I don't ever remember seeing any of those contracts.
I don't think we ever did. I think it's always been in there so that we had some oversight, make sure that no individual
When you were
contract.
a council mayor, did you ever see those?
No, we never did. It was in the law, but we never did it. Or
No,
it
but
was in the-
so they agree on $20 an hour, $50 an hour, $100 an hour. That company, that's what they agree, and that's what they're responsible for paying, and that's what that officer gets. If that officer wants to sign up for a job where he gets $10 an hour, then that's what he signs up for. Like, it's really not I don't think it's really our thing, right? Like, it's between them. Like, they've made that deal, and they can choose, and if they want to, that's what they want to pay, then that's what they get paid. It doesn't come out of the taxpayer dollars, it comes from the private company.
True. But is there any legal reason why? There's no legal reason we have to review it. I mean, I guess it was just in there in case they, and there's no reason to think they would, but if they were hitting one kind of group or one group for a lot higher and not negotiating with everybody the same way, the council or whoever would still have some oversight.
I think regardless of what they get paid, our responsibility, if any, depending upon how
I
it
don't
happens.
mind keeping the oversight.
Liability is the liability aspect of it, still the same.
You know, I mean, I don't mind keeping the oversight as an option in the event that we have an unfair practice or something like two companies are doing the same thing, and one's getting charged $150 an hour, and the other one's getting $25 an hour.
It's a set rate. So,
But yeah, it always was, that's why.
and it still will be. So perhaps I can suggest to you some midpoint where the set rate is brought before the governing body on an annual
That's
And the word
basis.
negotiate should
At the
not be
beginning,
used.
at the beginning of the year, you have a reorganization meeting, they tell you what the number's gonna be, you approve it, and then they administer it from there.
Yeah, that's probably the best
Maybe
I think
option.
it's
Solves the
a, I
problem.
think
So
it's
this
a
one
range,
is-
Okay, so-
depending on the type of,
Right, exactly.
Whatever the range may be.
But the bigger problem is when nobody posts for a position for that, okay? Because if all of a sudden you have like, you know, something that, now all of a sudden it becomes, if it's something that's needed as public safety, then now it has to be township. So like at the youth sports festival, if they apply and they say, well, you know, we can't provide officers, that's when the problem occurs, because then we get back into the situation that we were in with them before. And for any group that's having an event, you know, I mean, Hooks for Brady had some events here,
Right.
other groups.
This is, and it's all on a volunteer basis, right? Correct.
Yeah,
To sign
I have
up.
to sign
But
up.
couldn't we, and this is just an idea, can we just negotiate with that a certain, people that have certain seniority, let's say the lowest seniority, let's say 1 through 5 years, at least 3 people in that bracket have to sign up for something. Something like that, where we know that it's going to be covered, as opposed to it's just strategically, nobody signs up for it, so then they get the higher rate.
well, technically,
'Cause then
this
we're-
isn't
are we
something
working-
that, I understand what you're saying, but I think that, you know, off-duty police is something separate and
It really does
different
affect
than
the-
police
affect
operations, right? We require people to, outside vendors, I'll keep calling them, but if somebody's having an event or they need police off-duty services, the contract, you know, is really through the PBA. They're administering it.
So what happens
So-
if they need 10 spots filled and only 5 people sign up? Do they get 5 people from another town? Or do they just operate with only 5 people?
They generally don't, and so, and
No, they get 5, and then 5 we have to provide.
Then we end up paying overtime to
So I don't
officers to
think
cover.
we've done that
Yeah,
too many
that's what I'm saying.
times, right? Except for, we have the
Every
Youth Sports
time,
Festival.
all that stuff, we just waive.
So they, for that, but again, that's a special event, and, you know, I don't know if that was ever put out there to be done as an extra duty job, as a police extra duty. Now,
I think
again,
maybe just in general in the future or something like that. I don't know how to protect us from that, but it is what Amanda says, like strategically, maybe, not strategically, I don't want to say people are thinking with malice or anything like that, but we do get, we end up holding the bag at the end, and there's something we have to do to kind of protect ourselves from having to, yes, right, you know, like, from having to end up paying these extra fees, something.
Well, that's something we could work with under the ordinance we passed last week. We can try to set a guideline with the director, I guess, police director, to establish that the police director needs to take into account in setting how much they're gonna have to pay or post, or however they're gonna do it. He's gotta take into account the possibility that there won't be filled, that the off-duty role won't be filled, and he's gotta use history, and we can, some brain trust can.
but we also made a couple of changes to the rate structure, and so, and it really started with the rate structure as a request from the PPA to take a look at some of the road jobs that they were doing and whether they could, you know, increase the rates a little bit. We also took a hard look, and took the opportunity to take a hard look at the special events rates, which we upped, and because one of their concerns on a special event like Youth Sports Festival is that sometimes you need a supervisor there. This is one of the examples. So sometimes you need a supervisor there. The current off-duty doesn't have a way for you to say, I want a supervisor and I don't want a patrolman, or whatever the case may be. And so this allows for the director, police director, when he's setting up a special event, to say, okay, this event is going to need, the 5 patrolmen and, 2 supervisors or whatever, and there's an addition, an excess rate, an extra $25 an hour to the policemen that they can get if there's a supervisor required on there and they're a supervisor. So I think we had a nice exchange with the PBA and the SOA on the give and take on the rates, and made them, desirable enough that, we don't know for sure. They don't know for sure if they're ever gonna get enough people to sign up for any of the jobs, but, we'll see what happens. They just need a lot of them for the Youth Sports Festival in particular. That's one special event that needs a lot, and there are others.
I mean, I think all our concerns is, I don't want to speak for everybody, but we don't want to go back to having to foot these bills. But at the same time, we don't want to see the youth sports people get hammered, or anybody that runs a big event get hammered at higher costs. So if there's a better cost that they can see from dealing with the PBA, which it always was, that should be what they should be looking at. But then, because of the past where nobody signed up for the list, or they didn't have to sign up for the list, whichever it was, their experience in the police department was, hey, why should I sign up for this list? Because I'm just going to get the overtime anyhow, so I'm going to be on that shift, I might as well just go get it. And it could be a surprise to the group that's running the event, and they're seeing higher costs, and they're not providing for like-in-kind services to cover all that stuff. So it's going to reduce the amount of money that they expect to see. But at the same time, we don't want the taxpayers paying, there are taxpayers, we've had them come to the meetings that don't feel that, maybe that's not their thing. They're not an advocate for that, or maybe they don't see the merit in that, even though there is merit to it, and they say, I don't feel I should be footing this bill.
Ron, what was the middle grade you were talking about?
I was suggesting that the governing body approve the rates, whatever the schedule of rates may be, on an annual basis, and then the administration of it gets turned over to the people who are actually doing it and running it, and have been running it for as long as I've been here. So the numbers are the numbers. Understanding that the council has some legislative oversight as to finances, it's one of your functions, you could do that on an annual basis. That was my suggestion.
I can't imagine, I doubt the police would have a problem with that.
No, I don't think so either. So,
They're going to provide you with the numbers, and you'll either approve them, or you won't approve them, and you'll want explanations. So
Does that help?
That sounds like a viable option. What do you guys think? It's like a one-time thing, so this way it's not every
Yeah, once a
time.
year.
Once a year.
So it's
It's
a rework
happened.
meeting, right?
Exactly.
It's gonna be,
Catherine indicated, there's, a road officer is a different situation, working with public service or something, is a different situation than working in one of these other events or something, so maybe they have tiering for some reason.
Now, what about the threes, the ones that do, at the schools, are they're not part,
Not part of this.
Not part of it.
Yeah, not part of this. This is off duty for.
Amanda, before you go, did you have Bill's questions or you want to address them?
I don't really have time, so it's my fault. So there's over $2,400 for generator, the generator was over $3,000. Fire company generator expenses, one of my questions. There was page 19 of the second file toward the bottom, Luann Benson's department, there was something with food and snacks that was over it was snacks/labor, $2,400. I didn't know if it was snacks and labor, labor for snacks, snacks for laborers, like, why are they together? Like, I don't know what it is, and $2,400 is a lot, because everything seems to be individual. She's not here to answer that.
You can
But I'll-
get the
yeah.
answers.
Yeah, it's page 19, second file towards the bottom.
Okay,
And I
okay.
have looked into it too, so I'll
Yeah.
discuss it with Cavell and
And then my last comment, which was also for Leon, who's not here, is that anytime we purchase food for township events, it should be purchased by an in-town restaurant, rather than sending our money to another town. Especially if it's bagels or something like that. We have plenty of bagel shops. There's no reason we should be spending our money in other towns. Not that they don't deserve it, but.
Except that they're half the price.
Well, then you negotiate the price.
Maybe North Trunkee.
If you say, we're gonna buy bagels from you every week, $250, which is a boatload of bagels for the senior center, then they can negotiate a price that works.
Hope
And I'm sorry,
everybody,
can I
hope the
have-
concert's a good one.
Amanda, thank you.
All right, so we'll go ahead and, next item, I'm almost to the end, is also an ordinance, and this one titled Administrative Legislation. As we're taking a look at Chapter 61 currently of our municipal code has personnel items listed. So we're still working on a draft of that, which we'll have to you at the next workshop. We wanted to give you a little more time with that. This is really an ordinance that just cleans up. There's some duplicated items that are in these other chapters, as you can see, and we plan on making sure that they're only in one place, and so that it's really just kind of tidying up the current code and getting rid of duplicates. But we'll have to make sure that if you adopt this one, we adopt it at the same time we adopt the personnel code changes, so that, because they're really related. Any questions on that one?
So they just have to comply with the state and federal legislation, is that the way I'm saying it?
I'm just gonna make a general comment. I know we switched these meetings supposedly, because the state came down with something about us approving bill lists faster, but I don't think in a half an hour meeting, we should be looking at 4 billion ordinances and all kinds of stuff, which we have really no time to discuss. I mean, that's just my thing. If we're gonna do these shorter meetings, they should be related to bill list, and if you wanna throw something in that's simple.
You're right about that, but we're under no obligation to finish the meeting early tonight. I mean,
Well, I understand that, but if it's noticed for 7 for something else. And my other thing is, I guess, this is the 20th meeting, so we're getting this, and then we're gonna go out there and have a first reading on some of this stuff if we have things, I mean, and my own personal experience was we did that once, and then on the second reading, I was sick on the first one, and we talked about this, which I didn't really get a chance to talk about it, and it was first and seconded, and okay, now let's talk about it. Well, that doesn't tell me that it's going to have a whole lot of good discussion, and it's going to... I think we should have more music in our meetings. I agree. It actually makes for a happier time.
All right, that was, I don't know if you remember, that was one of the questions that I had. So what happens if, we're not finished with this, and then the answer that I got, I can't remember who said it, was, we're not gonna say that our next meeting is gonna be starting at 7, because that worried me, because these meetings are usually longer.
Yeah, they're longer than those meetings.
Yeah, I mean, but that's, so it was stated that, we didn't state that it would be 7 o'clock at the regular council meeting.
I think you have to say it.
That's what it was expected.
I think it was just said that we say you
Starting
follow.
at-
Immediately to follow.
Yeah, immediately, but not a specific time.
So start at.
Is there an ordinance that specifically that you want to talk about more? Because we're not trying to rush everything.
Tonight's it bums rush for me, because I was stuck, and you can't believe the traffic for me to get here at 6:30. And I'm not saying, I'll be here
I
at
can't,
6:30.
because I would too.
I'll leave, I'll take the hour and a half drive as opposed to whatever, you know what I mean? Because I'm way up in North Jersey, and today was, I don't know why. It actually was half raining in spots, and it wasn't raining in other spots.
Oh, it wasn't
It was like
raining,
a
good.
thunderstorm up there or something. But, so that's why I didn't get a chance as much as usual to bring my, I left it at home and bring it with me this morning. I would have read through a lot of these, but I'm just saying, if it's something that's complex, we should probably hold it to a time for one of the longer workshops. workshops, because Bob's right. I mean, we all know, part of the workshops many times, especially when you have a closed session, it's lots of times take longer than the regular meetings out there.
Well, that's true.
I mean, I don't know, if I'm the only one, then.
As I said, I brought it up because it bothered me, but if Ron's saying, well, we don't put down a specific time,
No, I'm not concerned about the sunshine law aspects of it. I'm concerned that I want to make sure that you've had an opportunity to understand, digest, and ask your questions, because that's your function. So, I mean, if I was looking at the agenda and I thought that there was items that might require additional time for you to look at, the one that we just talked about, the administrative legislation, I would say we could possibly hold, because we need
Yes.
to put that together with the personnel ordinance, and they really should go together.
Right.
So that one, I could see your concern. The police, right, the off-duty police, that's just a matter of cleaning it up and making sure that it works and getting the information you're looking for. And the one that we're about to talk about, the EMS service, that's not overly complex and that's been negotiated, and I think that one you shouldn't have a problem with, because it's basically codifying what we're currently doing, right?
I think that what I think everybody's concerned about is the ability for us as council people to discuss certain things.
Of course.
And hear from everybody else. Of course. But I think when you see that you're going to have a closed session with like 2 or 3 items, whether it be litigation, whether it be something like that, you can usually expect that's going to take an extra 15 or 20 minutes at least over the above that. So that to me will be something to look at and say, whoa, maybe we better change some of this around or do whatever. I'd like having this meeting before the other one, because you get 2 of them done.
Yeah.
It saves another night. Another patient.
Well, I think also that, I think Bob's absolutely right about the items that are in closed session, because those are usually, there's a lot of explanation, whether it's something in court or whether it's labor negotiations or whatever. Those other ones, when people hear comments from other people, sometimes that triggers a thought in their mind about maybe they didn't even understand a certain phrase. It's the old bad kid in the class that raises his hand and asks a question, as opposed to other people that maybe don't ask a question because they think they understand something. And then when they hear what somebody else to say about it, then they say, oh, yeah, that's right. I had the same question. So, anyhow, that's...
Now, schedules, we're still going to do a full, summertime, we have a summertime schedule. But our intention is to do a full agenda session, standalone, for the second meeting, for the first meeting.
Right.
Okay.
So, for instance, next week, even though we have the holiday Monday, we have a whole workshop meeting on Tuesday. You'll have discussion and set the agenda for the following Monday, June 3rd. That's a regular meeting. So that was supposed to be, right, the one that we generally have more items on the agenda that first meeting. So, this is kind of an anomaly because there's a lot of things that we've been working on that just kind of all came together at the same time. And Ron's exactly right, something like, the ordinance that I was just talking about, the administrative legislation, we could pull that off for tonight and then do it alongside of the personnel ordinance so that you can discuss or know exactly what the cleanup changes are on that one. It's not less important at all, so it should go together with personnel.
Well,
And frankly, I kept personnel off of this meeting because even though we have a draft that, we've been discussing for quite some time, I didn't want to put it on to this meeting. It would have been way too much for this meeting along with some of the other items. And so I initially was going to put it on the agenda. We pulled it off after speaking with the mayor. We pulled it off, and I really just kind of missed that this one is related to it. Should have pulled that one off too. So
I think one other thing, not to But when you look at this, and one of our directors maybe has one item that takes 3 minutes, but most of the time, there's a lot more, so it's not, it doesn't go, it's not quick there. I mean, Ms. Benson's not here because she doesn't have anything, but maybe if she was here, she would be able to answer Amanda's questions.
Right.
Michael has a very short thing, in it, but he has a lot of important things that come up that take us a lot of time to discuss because we have questions that Michael explains to us. So that was.
Well, even if we don't have questions and Michael starts explaining.
Well, take a while.
I was almost home free.
I was being very
Thank you.
Look at it this way, Mayor. If you look at it, one name that's missing there, you don't see Luann. Now, if Luann was here, we'd probably be halfway through the first page.
I think Luann is in the cable room helping him do the.
Yeah, okay, but she didn't have anything when I'm saying,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
Heritage Day and this and that, you know, which
Usually,
is fine.
Luann and Harlow both being out is a good.
All right, so the last item I have on is an ordinance introduction. Again, this one is regarding our emergency medical services. So in this year's budget, you know, as we talked about last year when we put the budget together, we had tightened up and reduced the contribution that we were making to our EMS services, to our first aid and rescue squad. And we did that in the form of actually giving them some additional funding, but giving them the responsibility for some of their operating costs, which we thought should have been within their own purview and their own budget. So things like fuel and maintenance on the vehicles, LoSAP, town covers insurances for them. So liability insurance, not health insurance, because they have some paid employees, they take care of that. So after many meetings with them, we've come up with really a draft that helps memorialize what we put into practice last year. So it's really, again, a cleanup of the current code, and it's been a good collaboration with them. I think we're in agreement to everything, all the changes that we've made so far. And it allowed for, memorialized a couple of things. One, that along with the annual contribution we give them, we also have tax exempt properties, so they don't have to face taxes, and they get some certain other municipal services. We added in a provision this time that they could actually submit for payment for showing up to certain municipal functions that, you know, and otherwise it might be difficult to kind of get them there. But for some of the things that we'd like a presence from them, we thought it would be good for them to be able to compensate their squad for that. So this was, again, this was over many, many months. We started last year at about right before the budget. And it's been good discussions with the First Aid and Rescue Squad. So, and this would again be introduction, and it's done by ordinance, so you have that second reading on it as well.
All right, the mayor's office got a really impressive letter from two students at Livingston Park School, signed by a lot of other students who had signed a petition asking us to consider a ban on plastic bags in North Brunswick. So Amanda and Kathy were good enough to go with me to meet with the class. Ron was good enough to look into ordinances that other towns have enacted in New Jersey. And we came up with an ordinance to think about that we reviewed with the students. We talked to them about the process by which we would be following them. And so that's the ordinance that we sent out in the packet for everybody to look over. Since we started this process, Councilman Andrews has brought to my attention that Senator Smith in the Senate, the Environmental Committee in the Senate, is now looking into something that could be effectively a statewide way of getting this done. And I don't want the students to think that we are backing off from our discussion with them about how we would look to proceed. So we're going to invite a couple of them to come meet with some of us, maybe Councilman Andrews will be able to meet with them with us. And we're going to talk at that point about what the state's proposing and how we work together with the state. So at this point, although we put it out there for review and for everybody to look at, I think we're going to wait and see where the state's heading with this, or at least get some feel for it before we go jumping off on our own, if that's okay.
That makes sense.
You know, I did call you about that.
Yeah.
You know, people come up with stuff, and I don't know what their basis was, and I didn't get a chance to talk to them. And you know that I do follow lots of environmental issues. So, I did speak to Senator Smith. I spoke to him about his legislation. He also includes styrofoam. Now, I would, even if they don't do anything, one thing I would like to start to advocate, and I was going to bring them all tonight, but I didn't get a chance to bring them all. Number one, you see these things? These are way worse than any of that stuff. This stuff ends up as microplastic. So I'd like to suggest that as a council, at our meetings, if we're going to have drinks, that we have these, and that we get a water cooler, and that we can bring these and fill them from the water cooler, you know, like the portable ones and stuff, as opposed to using these plastic bottles and stuff. But I brought these tonight because these are something that we use as our company as a giveaway. I brought one for each council member because if you're going to, if Senator Smith's plan does go through, everybody's going to be using these in the state. There will be no paper bags. There will be no plastic bags at any of these places. However, there's a thing called life cycle analysis. And for me, in a sense, the jury's still a little bit out, because how many times do you think you have to use one of these to make up for one of the plastic bags? 131 to 171 times. The time to make this and the energy to use to make this is more than it takes for the plastic bags. So there's a tendency in the life cycle analysis to look at to say that possibly these are more environmentally damaging than the plastic bags. Okay, there's different schools of thought. So what you really need to do is look at some of these things. I'm going to take it, I've looked at a lot of this stuff myself. But when you apply in littering, you apply in them getting up in oceans and waterways and things like that, and the other damages that they do, it starts to offset more. Plus, there's no recycling value in a plastic bag. I mean, I don't use these. I use these myself when I go to the market, and I put my stuff in those bags more so than using plastic bags. Every once in a while, if I go someplace, they give me a bag, I just use it usually if I can carry the thing myself. And I started using these and filling these as opposed to using plastic, single stream containers like this. In fact, if you notice, I haven't been drinking soda anymore because I don't think that's good for you either. But anyhow, the thing is, it shouldn't always be the flavor of the month on an environmental issue. Kids and other people tend to get something that they hear in the press, and then all of a sudden they start running with it. But they really haven't looked at things like life cycle analysis and that. So there's more things that sometimes they need to look into and read, and they probably don't realize how much it takes to make one of these.
Well, can I ask you a question, because you're knowledgeable, I'm not, but these, I mean, in my house, they get recycled, right?
They get recycled, but what happens with them, more and more, you ever see those on the beach, you ever see them laying around all over the place? Unfortunately, there's a lot of that stuff that ends up getting in the environment. And China has stopped taking a lot of our recycles, so they're going to other countries. Those other countries aren't really having the stewardship with them, so they end up in the oceans and things. There's two major new continents on the planet, and they're both plastic sections in both sections of the ocean. And then they break down and become microplastics, and they end up in fish, in freshwater fish and saltwater fish, and you eat them. So it's affecting your life. And that was one of the points that Senator Smith made. He said, when you start telling people that these things are starting to affect their life and the life of their children, then they start to become concerned about it. When we were growing up, if you remember, the Native American guy who, my dad used to throw everything out the window. I mean, he'd throw cigarettes out the window, he'd throw garbage out the window, anything. And I started to see, as a youngster, the Native American guy crying because we were littering our landscape. And you know what? I would throw the stuff on the floor in my car and then take it out and put it in the garbage can. So it affected me as a youth to make change, and I think that's what these kids, to their credit, are doing the same sort of things. I used to go talk to them and I'd show them a styrofoam cup and I'd ask them what's better, styrofoam or a paper cup, and then I got to the point where, why don't you just use a glass at home to drink water as opposed to drinking out of that stuff? Or buy a central reverse osmosis system, or buy one of these and get the big container that's a single thing as opposed to 28 or 30 of those in a thing, and then just fill this up and take it with you. And you can, and it's nice, it always stays cold. Huh? This is vodka.
Do that again and just shut it down. That's for the camera.
That's my issue for tonight. Buy these and don't buy plastic.
Item number 1 and 2 are minutes from our council meeting of April 29th and May 6th. Any changes? Okay, item number 3 is authorizing the renewal of a liquor license for Bertucci's.
Thank you.
And we have 2 ordinances on second reading and public hearing, number 19-11 and 19-12.
Questions?
That's all
Is there a
I have.
motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Everybody have a good night.
I gotta go.